Welcome to Seasons of You, a podcast about seasons of change and our ever-evolving cyclical nature as women. I'm your host, Sarah, and I'll be sharing my experience of harnessing the power of the cycles as a guide for my life, and I'll be speaking to incredible guests where we'll explore struggles, growth, and expansion, and what inspires us to create and live a life that we truly desire. Get cozy and honor this moment for yourself as we dive in to the seasons of you. I acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which I live and travel. I give thanks to the Indigenous Australians who have an enduring and deep relationship to the land, skies, and waters of this country. I recognise that sovereignty was never ceded, and I pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. I also give thanks to my maternal lineage, to all the women who came before me, and to all those who came before you. Welcome to this episode, Through Her Eyes with Leanna. This is a conversation about learning to tune into ourselves, learning to trust ourselves, and learning to step into our power. Now, I had a few technical difficulties on my end with recording this episode while on Nurrinjeri land, and we had to start over the first bit while I figured it out and made sure that it was recording. And something that Leanna said in the original recording that didn't come across the second time that I made her answer the question was when she said she always believed in magic. And I feel like this really encapsulates her. So I'm really glad that you are here and that you get to tap into her magic. You can hear plenty of birds in the background here on both sides, so enjoy the feeling of being out in nature. I was outside sitting by a lake and it was gorgeous, but apologies for the wind at times. Leanna is a sacred healer and guide who supports women through the sacred thresholds of transition. These are the moments between who they were and who they are becoming. She blends somatic embodiment, energetic alignment, feminine wisdom, and deep intuitive work. And she holds women as they come home to themselves. She has over 15 years in women's holistic health. Her work is lived, embodied, and devoted to women and to the generations that follow. She's a fellow mum in business who is also choosing to do things her way, being heart-led and serving women in the most beautiful way. I have been mentored by Leanna in many ways over the last few years, whether it's sitting in her women's circles, the most incredible few months in a one-on-one program, which I talk a little bit about in the episode, plus in person for body work and immersing myself in her shorter channeled journeys. It's always been amazing. Leanna is honestly the definition of magic in my eyes, and working with her changed my life. She's my reminder that I have all I need within me, and that sometimes we all need a guide to support us to come back to ourselves and to our power. Leanna is the woman who began this journey of cyclical living for me. She didn't necessarily know it, but she planted the seed for me. She helped me germinate and grow it and harvest all the beautiful transitions, and she's been there for me throughout my journey. Leanna, I love you. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom here. Hi, Leanna. Thank you so much for joining me today. You are one of my most favourite people in the world, so I'm just really grateful that you're here with me.
Thank you so much for having me. I think it is such a privilege to have been able to experience and watch your journey from early motherhood to where you're sitting now in your business. And I am so beyond honoured to now call you a friend, not a client. And yes, so happy to be here and chatting today, my love.
Oh, I'm just really excited for my listeners to soak up some of your magical energy and your beautiful wisdom that you're going to share with us today. So over the years, you have worked with women in many beautiful different ways. And so maybe if we start off by you sharing a little of your journey of where you're at now and, what it was that called you into guiding and working with women in such a deep way that brings them back to themselves.
I love this question so much. I also love being reflected back how other people perceive me. But it's so amazing that you asked this question. I have literally just landed back from a retreat in Bali where I got to participate and facilitate. And one of my biggest learnings that I think come from that, or the biggest thing that landed for me, was to share my journey in an uncurated way. So where did it all start? I think I have forever had an obsession with the human body ever since I was little, and I have always loved movement and being with my body and, understanding her and playing with how strong she was and all the cool things she could do, right? Like I grew up doing gymnastics and dancing and always loved the expression of music and all of that beautiful stuff. So my path started with a bachelor degree in human movement and health sciences. I really thought I wanted to go into like physiotherapy or chiropractics. Turns out as a manager, I had a very different path ahead of me. But I then when I graduated, fell into working in physical rehabilitation, and I was super obsessed with the abdominals. I was super obsessed with hip flexors, which is so funny because now we understand that the hips and pelvis is like a woman's portal and all of the magic that holds. But I didn't know that at the time. I was just really drawn to that space. I then went on to do like remedial body work, and I studied with Bowen therapy. So I learned a lot about fascia and connective tissue, which has become a really big thing over the last 5 years. But when I originally studied, we didn't understand it to the depth that we do today. And then working physically with bodies, I started going, why are people reacting differently when I do the same thing? And why are people having emotional reactions here? Like what's happening? And then that kind of led me down that energetic pathway. And also mindset. So I've studied in hypnotherapy as well as understanding that energetic portal. So I did my Reiki qualifications, but I have definitely read and studied a lot more around energetics than just Reiki. And I guess along the lines, we've added lots of different things into there. There's yoga and Pilates and all of the other qualifications. And I won't go on about all of those because it's a very long list. But I think in short, I have always been called to the body, and in particular a woman's body, and just how connected we are on so many different levels. Like I was obsessed with understanding Eastern theology but giving it a Western perspective. So when I first went into business on my own, I was working teaching yoga and doing like retreats and workshops and working with women's bodies in a physical capacity as well through Bowen therapy. But it was always like just an obsession with understanding how women sit in their bodies, how our memory and our emotions and all of our lived experience is expressed through our body, and how it is always trying to communicate with us. So, yeah, I think I moved so far away from maybe those structures that I was initially taught, but again, super thankful for that path and my understanding of anatomy and physiology and all of the basics in the science realm of the human body. But I always just wanted to be this bridge between sort of like the Eastern and the Western, the spiritual and the physical. And I wanted to be able to understand that, because I truly do believe that that is the piece that we are missing in our modern world, especially within medicine, and even within physiotherapy and things like that. We've got so good at sort of honing into a skill set, right? So we'll go see the ENT, or we'll go see the gastroenterologist, or we'll go see, I don't even know, the hormone doctor, right? But we've kind of forgotten that our system works together. And I think that was always my draw towards the Eastern theology. So your Chinese medicine and your Ayurvedic and those other kind of capacities, because I really wanted to understand the body as a whole. And what I was seeing with clients and with patients when they were coming in was there was so much more that was being held within their physical body. It wasn't just a sore shoulder. And we would start talking, and then people would have energetic releases. And I didn't really understand at the time why that was happening, or why I knew to go to these spaces, or why I knew to touch this thing. And I could always theologize it in a way of explaining it from a science perspective, but intuitively, I knew there was something bigger happening. So I think, again, it wasn't until I fell pregnant and was handing over my position as a Bowen therapist and training up someone else to take over my client base that I realized I was actually doing something very intuitive, very psychic. So I was teaching this other Bowen therapist to take over my position, and he was asking me questions like, well, why do you touch there? And then how do you know to go here? And I was like, sitting with that, and I was like, I don't know, Cameron, I don't know that, right? So I had no idea that I had been working for years in this really intuitive way within bodies. So people were coming in with physical ailments within their body, and I was intuitively following the thread of their body. And I could explain it to a sense in terms of science because I had the knowledge in my head, but intuitively I knew there was more. I had so many of my clients gift me tissues as like gifts at Christmas time because I used to make everyone cry on the table. And again, not really understanding, I want to say the power that I held, or maybe the gift that I had. And I think I started really leaning into weaving these threads together. Like there's so much more here that we as human beings can't fully comprehend. Maybe we don't need to understand it. Maybe we just need to be okay with being with it. So then I guess that led me down a path of really reading as much as I could about all of these magic Eastern and Western theories and how it all comes together. And I love that we are now in a place where we can talk about quantum physics and like maths and the human body. And somehow that explains Reiki and chakras and energy systems and how we're living in this time continuum, right? So I I feel like I have just continued to learn, and my work is a continual reflection of what I move through in my own life and what I'm add to not only my skill set, but I guess my lived experience. And then obviously having babies just changes your trajectory of everything and your perspective of the world, your perspective of yourself, your perspective of what is possible, because I don't know how anyone could grow life within their womb, birth life out of their vagina, and not believe in magic
Mm-hmm.
of the female body, right? So again, I followed that safe thread, and I understood the physiology of birth, and I went in to teach hypnobirthing because I really believed that I wanted women to have this incredible experience. And I think that's how it's kind of all unfolded. And now I sit in these really juicy spaces of wanting to honor these sacred transitions in women's life. And whether that be your first bleed, whether that be coming into womanhood. I mean, I have two daughters and they're not at the age where they're going to be bleeding yet, but for them to understand their intuition, their psychic abilities, their connection outside of self as well as within self, trusting their bodies, like all of that is very normal within our house. To then holding women through the birth space, perimenopause, menopause, and all of these transitions that we hit, right? Like that midlife reset that we all go, oh, hang on, I've done all the things that society has told me to do. And I kind of still don't feel whole. I still don't feel like I know who I am, right? And I think that's the most important piece is for a woman to understand not only her power but herself, and herself through her body, not herself through her mind or through the structures outside of her on who she was told to be or how she was told to be. You know, everyone, especially our generation, Sarah, we've had to shed that perfectionism, and it's probably something we continue to come to. We've had to sit in rewiring our nervous system so we don't fawn anymore and we can stand in our authenticity rather than appeasing other people. The people pleasing thing, we and it's a constant work in progress. Like none of us are perfect, right? No matter how much work we've done, it's this constant meeting of our edges and sitting in that discomfort of stretching and expansion. But I think understanding our bodies, understanding our cyclical nature, which you do so beautifully in how you share that with women, is the very basis of where we need to start. But once you open that door, there is so much more there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing so beautifully, so openly. And I just love everything. Like, I've been in your world for a number of years now. And I love how everything that we move through is like you move through it and then you guide us through it. And it's just such a special way of being supported, knowing that like you're right there with us, and your knowledge, not just in the theoretical sense of everything that you've learned, but your embodied wisdom and what you move through and how you show us what is possible. It's just amazing. And every time I'm in your space, I'm just like mind blown. Everything shifts. Like it's just amazing. So I just loved you speaking through all of that through your journey, and yeah, speaking to all of those sacred transitions, which is kind of what we're that's the theme of this episode. I think it's so important. Like you said, we're all, as women, I think especially as mothers, we're having all these realizations and going like, we can't keep doing it the way it's been done for all these years now. Like there's a different way forward, but how do we do that?
Mm.
And it is constant transition points because, as you said, we're cyclical. Like we're always evolving, we're always moving through something. And so maybe could you touch on some of those core transitions that we do all go through in our lives? But then also that reminder that like everything is always a transition.
I know, right? And I think that's such the beauty of being a woman, because like we have that 28-day cycle, and within that 28-day cycle we move through the energies of all of those thresholds and all of those transitions, that maiden to mother to wild woman to crone, within that 28-day cycle, as well as over our lifetime, as well as all of those other things that just come up in our soul's path and our soul's journey that are there to be that transitional point for us. It's not just having children, like birth is that beautiful threshold, and it is that walking of that huge identity shift, and then how we're held in that postpartum. But every year that my children have grown has also been a threshold and a transition for myself to expand into more capacity, to look inward and address, the things that are there from that age. And I think that's a beautiful thing, right? Like our children, hit 5 and they mirror how we were at 5, and maybe some of those wounds and triggers that were there. So I totally understand what you're asking of me, but I don't think I can just couple it to those transitions that we would consider rites of passage within a women's life cycle, because
Mm,
I think as a woman who is mirroring the earth, who is mirroring the stars and the astrology and the moon cycles, and is affected by all of these things, those transitions are deeply from within us, right? They're an external reflection of what is within us. So we say all the time, right? As above, so below. And I
mm,
will die on that belief, right? Like we move so much with that. But it's also so within as without. So these things that are being presented to us on the outside as challenges, as pivots, as expansion points, are purely a reflection of what's happening internally with us. And that's not just in our physical body, but that is in our energetic body, and that is in our spiritual body as well. And we are such multidimensional beings that we understand like a very, very slim percentage of our own potential, our own capacity, and this beautiful planet. So I think, and again, I think we can get lost in that, right? We can get lost in like needing to know more and needing to do more. And I do think the answer is honestly stripping it all back to basics. And I think we're in that beautiful transition collectively, globally at the moment, where the new earth is being spoken about. It is unfolding before our eyes. It feels really turbulent and scary and unknown, because we are literally in the void and we're in the luminal. But again, another one of my obsessions is history, right? And understanding history pre-Christianity, history before pride, ego, patriarchal structures. So history outside of the history books we were taught in school. And when you start tapping into those things, I think it is about coming back to basics. It's about coming back to being present, to being with earth, to being with body, to being with other women, because it literally rewires our entire system and our frequencies on a womb level, on a heart level, on a spiritual level. So if you haven't yet, get yourself to a women's circle or just grab your girlfriends and sit down, because it literally, we are wired to gather as women, and it changes our entire being. I've totally gone off on a tangent. You're going to have to pull me back with another question now. I would love maybe for you to even share your perspective and understanding on transitions, because I know that was really massive for you, right?
Yeah.
Like moving through your motherhood journey, but that's also when you first landed in my world, right? You experienced one of my very first journeys. I came to a women's circle and taught some yoga and movement, which I thought I was coming to just teach yoga and movement, but it's always magic what spirit has in line for people. So for people who don't know, when I do journeys, or when I tap in and take people on those journeys, I am not here. I am a complete open channel. I often don't know what comes through my mouth when I take people through these experiences. But yeah, I can't even think how old your little boy was when you first landed in that space.
He would have been nearly 3, I think. Um, no, maybe even before that, nearly 2. I reckon he was nearly 2. And yeah, I was really like in the depths and figuring out who the hell I was in this new version of me in motherhood, and really struggling with that transition. There's lots of layers to that, but I went to this like a day retreat, and you were there teaching yoga, and I just remember the moment that I feel like it all just hit me in my body, and we were doing yoga. I have no idea what pose I was in, but the sun just came through this like little window and it just hit me. I don't think it was on anyone else. And it was like a piece of me returning to myself. And it was just this like the most beautiful experience. And I was like, oh, it's like a breath. Oh, there she is. Like, oh, okay, I'm still here. And then I was just like hooked. I was like, I have to, what is Leanna doing? Like, who is this person? What is she doing? And I think, yeah, from there, I was just in your world forever. And I did your women's circles, which just set off everything for me in the cyclical living side of bringing that to a conscious level and seeing that that was possible, like this whole way of living that was so outside of the mainstream way that I've lived my whole life. And that feminine connection to our natural cycles and then the earth cycles and, the moon and all of it, it just opened up everything for me. And then, all those, like you said, it's all those transitions. Like there's, the motherhood transitions, and there's like within yourself and your identity and figuring out who you are. And then Essence of You was really like the big one. That program was like 3 months together, one-on-one, and it blew my world open. Like, I don't really know how to describe it, but it just blew my mind, blew everything apart for me in the best of ways. And I found my spiritual path, and like this whole world opened up for me. And I think just being able to be guided by you, but also within witnessing you, like I said before, your embodiment, your journey, and how you move through things. And like everything was, I'd be like, Leanna, what do I do? What do I think? What do I feel? What should I say? And you're like, like you're always just bringing it back to. And I think that's probably like the biggest lesson that I always learn from you, is that we don't need this external validation. We don't need this, like the Jane Hardwick Collins calls it the cult of the expert, like that we need all these answers from everyone else. But actually, if we actually just slow down or tune in and just give ourselves the permission to look inwards, we have everything within us. And it can be really hard to tap into that and understand that when we've been taught for our whole lives that like we don't know anything or that we shouldn't trust ourselves. But like I feel like that's one of the core things that you always bring me back to.
Yeah, and I think that is honestly my biggest ethos. And I've struggled with holding this ethos, right? Because in the world of social media, in having a business, in niching down, sharing my message, all of the things, and I have once in my life wanted to hold people's answers. I don't hold your answers. I couldn't physically ever hold your answers. And I believe that with my entire being. I think what is missing for all of us is a space to land, right? It is not something our partners, no matter how loving our marriages or relationships are, can hold for us. We need other women holding those spaces, and women who have maybe walked before but maybe not as well, right? Like it's about setting up that energetic space where we can meet ourselves with curiosity, meet what's coming up with curiosity, opening ourselves to perspectives that maybe we didn't even know existed in the
Mm,
world, and then giving ourselves permission to find our voice and listen to our bodies and ourselves. And I think that is really a quiet rebellion against how our entire world is set up and structured. And I mean, we're moving through such a space where I get the ick on Instagram constantly.
hmm.
Every second person is trying to sell something and sell a method and sell an answer and sell a thing, right? And I'm not perfect. I know all of this. I literally hold all these spaces, yet I get caught up with like, oh, do I need that $20 thing? Or like, oh, hang on, I haven't explored that. Maybe they do have that answer that I'm looking for. Or like, I get stuck in that pain point marketing where I get sold in it. Um, but yeah, I think that's my biggest thing, and that wording is all over my website. And if you come to my spaces, I use that wording. I probably don't share it on socials enough, but I will hold the torch and hold your hand until you can see what I can see in yourself.
Yeah.
um, and we do that on so many levels, in so many different ways. And it is very intuitively and spirit led in my containers and in my circles. I don't prep a lot. I have a general running sheet, but I will read the energy of the room and where we need to go, and very much trust in that. So I guess that's maybe that embodied piece that I think I do quite intuitively and naturally without realizing that that is actually the depth of my embodiment of tuning in and listening. I feel like I've done that very naturally for a very long time through all aspects of my work. I always thought I was lazy and I didn't make time for preparation, and I wasn't organized. I believed I was the unorganized person for a long time. Um, but yeah, when I sit back and allow the other stuff to come through, that's when the magic unfolds, right?
100%. And that intuition, like just trusting that the process will unfold exactly as it's meant to. It's
Mm,
like you said, it's that rebellion against everything that we have been taught and the way that our society is structured, which is like, yeah, plan for it and schedule it, and it's got to have a purpose and like some meaning, but not like deep meaning within ourselves. Like it's got to be productive to the society. So it
yeah.
really takes a lot of practice, especially if you are new to the space of listening to yourself. It takes a lot to
Mm,
kind of let go of all that external stuff and all of the narratives that we have running around because they've been placed on us. Um, I guess for anyone who's in that space, like obviously we talk a lot about like coming into your body and stuff, but for anyone who's listening to this going like, what's one thing that I can do today to start this? Like, what would you say?
Yeah, I can't count the number of clients that I have had, or women that have worked with me in all different capacities, who like literally cringe when I'm like, just come back to your body, sit in your body. Because I think like that can be so unsafe for so many women in terms of like their nervous system response. Like it's not safe to sit in your body, but like we have this trigger against pleasure, and that it should be again productive and output and all
Yeah.
of these things. Same with joy, and it needs to be structured in. To just to hear the words like sit in your body. I think Kelly was your last guest, wasn't she? So she's a
Yeah.
beautiful friend of mine. She's also done Essence of You. And I will never forget. I still joke with her when like I would say, like, come back to your body. She would literally mock my voice. Like, ew, come back to your body. Like, what does that even mean? Um, but it's like cultivating this love and connection with yourself, right? And I think we think it needs to be this 12-week course, or we think it needs to be this luscious, like hour and a half, dropping through all of the layers, which, don't get me wrong, all of those things are incredible, absolutely incredible. But it is just the 5-minute breath. It is
Mm.
just placing your hands on yourself anywhere. I don't care, like anywhere. Hold your hands, massage your hands, and breathe and just be for the snippet of seconds, and teaching yourself that you are safe to be with yourself. And the more that you cultivate that connection and that safety, whether that's through movement, whether that's through somatics, whether that's through embodiment, whether that's through yoga, I'm going to say working out, but often that comes with layers of punishment and all of the other things that are like on top of that. But moving your body just to be present with your physical form is the most powerful thing ever. Chucking music on and just allowing yourself to move intuitively, one of my most favorite exercises. And you start really small and everyone's really awkward and you're like, oh, I don't know, I feel a bit weird, right? But this is like being seen, but also being with your body. And it's my favorite way of expressing any kind of emotion that
Mm.
is stuck. I actually have one of my favorite practices. I will work out how I can send you the link to it,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's literally like a 5-minute recording. Everyone can just jump into it. It's my morning thing. It's like pop your feet on the ground, take 2 breaths, and then we're just going to like sit in the pelvis and we're just going to move the pelvic bowl. And it feels weird to start with, and then you kind of feel like you're in flow, and then you feel all the energy coming up through your body, through your center, and it is just a beautiful way to start the day. So maybe that's something, maybe I can share that.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, I wasn't prepared to run it through one while I'm here. I probably could do it, but it's a pre-recorded one. So yeah, I'll find that and send it through.
That would be beautiful. Thank you. And I love that you touched on like keeping it small and that we
Mm,
feel uncomfortable, but then when we practice it more, and it is a practice, like you just let yourself do it and you're
yeah.
letting yourself feel safe to feel into your body,
Mm,
to feel what you're feeling. And that you mentioned Kelly as well, because like look at her now. She's like all about the embodiment. Like she has this amazing connection to her body, to her intuition, through her body
yeah.
connection. Like,
Yeah.
but we all start somewhere, right? We all start in this place where we're like, what do you mean? Or, oh, this feels uncomfortable. Like
Yeah.
it's pushing through those little layers of discomfort and finding our trust, finding our safety. And like that's a transition, right? Like within ourselves, within our bodies and our nervous systems, we're transitioning from one state where we literally don't know how to do it through the discomfort. And
Yeah.
that's where it's so beautiful to come into spaces where you are held, because then that is your
Yeah.
safety. That is the place and the person that is your landing space, is your grounded energy that can hold you when you are feeling so uncomfortable.
Mm. And I think that is so powerful, because I think gathering together, so whether that's in circle, whether that's in group containers, and having that realization that, one, you're not alone, and two, that every woman on this planet is literally in some kind of, you can understand their journey and where they're at. Like you're either heading there or you've been through that, or you're moving through exactly the same thing together, right? Like I just said before, I came back from retreat. And this was an international retreat, so I met women from all over the world, from all different cultures, and we're all the same, and we are all so fucking magic and powerful. But coming back to that, like being with body, I do really wanna say that go slow, release all expectations you have. You can't get it wrong, like you cannot get it wrong. There's no right way to do this or be with yourself. And when I say releasing expectations, I mean, like, I wouldn't give my 5-year-old
Mm.
like a novel to read, right? They learn the alphabet, they learn the sounds, they start putting words together, they start putting sounds together, then they can read a sentence, then they can read a picture book, then they can read a chapter. You're not starting by reading a novel. So I think releasing that expectation, because I don't think we can go, hey, I've spent the best part of 30 years not listening to myself, being actively taught to externally seek validation and answers, like not even taught to listen to how our body's feeling, right? And even in today's society, like you walk down the street and you get a funny vibe from someone and everyone's like, oh no, be friendly, be nice, don't be judgmental, right? Rather than trusting our body's innate feelings. Whereas if we were still living in a tribal way, we would all be very aware of our other senses outside of our sight, our
Mm-hmm.
hearing and our smell. And I think that's what it is when it's coming back to body, that yeah, you can't go from not having listened or having had any connection. It doesn't go away, by the way, it's just suppressed. It's still in you. It's not disappeared. Like it's still there underneath all of the things. It can't have ever gone anywhere. All of that wisdom from generations is within your body. It's peeling back the layers so that you can
Mm-hmm.
start to hear it. So our body doesn't have to be screaming at us to get our attention, and we can start tuning into the subtleties and understanding ourselves on the deepest layer and having a relationship with it, with ourselves. And when we do, that opens up everything, right? It opens up our relationships, it opens up our motherhood journey, it opens up our own personal journey, our spiritual journey, our connection to earth, our connection to spirit, to source, all of it, because we were all the goddesses, right?
Thank you so much. And thank you for the reminder that it is there. We don't have to find it. Like, we don't have to go somewhere, grab it, and then bring it here. Like, it is
Yes.
here. It's just uncovering everything that's repressed it.
Yeah. And once you open it, like the doors open quickly,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You've experienced this. It opens it quickly in so many ways, on so many levels. But it is really cultivating. And I know there's so much noise around nervous system regulation and safety and all of those things. And no one can gift you that safety, by the way,
Mm.
just because someone states that it's a safe space or a safe container or a safe whatever. Your body gets to decide what that is. And I think that's really an important point, because it is around you cultivating what feels right for you. So you can come and do a 12-week program with me and I can give you all of these practices, but you might only like one of them. I don't give a shit if that's the case, right? It's really finding what works for you and finding how you can connect to yourself on those layers and what feels good for you, what feels safe for you. Um, because no one else can dictate that. You are the only person living within your body. You are the only version of you that there is on this planet, and all of that is so individual, and you have your own story. You have your own way of being in this world. You have your own upbringing. You have all of these conditionings that are solely yours, and you have your own lineage and line and stories that are woven throughout your body through your maternal line as well, and your ancestral line. So yeah, I think it is truly really individual, and no one has your answers but you.
Do you have anything else on your heart to share before we start wrapping up?
I think we've covered so many aspects, and I think and everything that I've spoken about today is a real entry into my world, right? Like I struggle so much because I can't niche down. I think that the brilliance of the world that we live in is this incredible ability to have so much knowledge at our fingertips. And I think I will obviously be a forever life learner. But I think my biggest thing that I would love to share with everyone is to just maybe not get distracted by all of the noise. And like we just said in that whole last conversation, like everything that you need for your soul's path and for your life's journey is already within you. Your innate blueprint that you literally came here with when you were first born is still available to you underneath all of the conditioning and culturally, societally through your family line. And there's ways of letting that go, and it can be done really quickly if you desire, but it can also be a really slow burn. And yeah, it is such an individual journey, and it is one that is solely yours and cannot be anyone else's. So if we can find a level of trust, a level of surrender, and a level of connection with ourselves and maybe other people who are walking the same path as us, I think you'll be surprised at how quickly things can change for your personal transitions in life.
That is the most beautiful advice ever. And I can attest to all of that, having been through those things with you, guided by you, and, carrying that forward with me. Yeah, it really comes back to that. So thank you.
You're so welcome.
I'd love to ask a question before we
Mhm.
end. Having been through all that you have so far, if you could meet the version of you, perhaps the woman that you were when you were first starting to work with women, and speak to her now as your higher self, what would you tell her?
Mm. You make me cry. I think I would just remind her to trust herself
Mm-hmm.
and to keep going, right? Like I think I got lost, and I still do to this day. Get lost with the weight of how things should be, or just life in general. Um, but I think I never knew back then that everything that I needed was already within me, and I was very much seeking outside of myself. So I think that would have to be my biggest piece of advice, right? Would be to slow down. And I think the understanding that shame and guilt, which so many women carry from such a young age, because we try to make ourselves fit into what we think people need us to be, that shame and guilt are those lowest vibrations, right? And you can't create, manifest, attract anything from sitting in those spaces. And I think ultimately that whatever we hold shame about within our body is not our shame. It's a story that was gifted to us. Um, and it's something I had big releases of in the last week. Shame around my physical body, shame around following a path that maybe wasn't mine, getting distracted, all of these things that have unfolded over my life. But if we can take our shame and actually show it light and express it out into the world, it dissipates and it
Mm-hmm.
disappears, right? It's only shameful when we keep it within ourselves. So I think understanding that and being able to express myself fully and truly, I hid that psychic ability, I hid that intuitive knowledge, I downplayed it, and I tried to logicalize it. So yeah, I think I'd give her a big old hug and tell her she's doing okay, because we end up here, right? And here's a pretty good place. Yeah.
Mm, how beautiful. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing.
Anyway, thank you for that reflection. Mm.
So let's finish off by you, please, sharing where can people find you? How can we connect with you? What work are you doing in the world that you'd like to point people towards?
Yeah. Ooh, yay. Well, you can find me on social media. So at with _Leanna. And my website is www.withleanna.com.au. And there you'll find all of the things that are active in terms of offerings and spaces to connect. I have just reopened Essence of You after taking a year off from teaching that program. So it is back in a one-on-one capacity, and it will be launched at the end of April as a group container as well. We're going to journey as a small group through that because, as Sarah has mentioned, gathering as women is like one of my favorite things in the entire world. And when women come together, literal magic happens. So the reverence of that container, yeah, the essence of you, it's ready to expand into a group container with one-on-one coaching in there. I have also got some smaller journeys like Inner Sanctum, She Who Knows, and Heart of Her that are available as pre-recorded audio trainings with embodiment practices, beautiful intuitive journeys for transitions, all the transitions, connecting to self, connecting to heart, connecting to spirit, connecting to the body, all of the things that I love. So they are also all there and ready to go. So yeah, that is where I'm at. Oh, and retreats. I literally just got an email back about dates for a Bali retreat later in the year this year. And we will be going to Egypt with 10 women on a pilgrimage in February next year. So all of that is happening. There's only wait lists open for both of those things at the moment, but they are all in the works as well.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. I will put all of the links in the show notes. So please scroll down, go and connect with Leanna, say hi, ask her any questions. She's absolutely amazing, as you can tell from this conversation, just a wealth of knowledge of women's wisdom. And I'm just so grateful to you, Leanna, for joining me today and for sharing from your heart, sharing your wisdom.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yep, slide into my DMs. I love a good voicemail and a deep chat. Sarah and I chat all the time.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, beautiful.
Thank you so much for being here. We'll chat soon. I want to invite you into a moment for integration, because consumption of knowledge is great, but where it turns into wisdom is when we reflect and bring it into our own lives. So my invitation here is to reflect for a minute on what's been shared today, and then choose one tiny step you can take to bring those lessons into your life. Take a deep breath and devote yourself to that step today. With my deepest gratitude, I am so honoured that you have chosen to listen to this episode today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Be sure to check the show notes for any relevant links, references, and resources. A final note that this podcast is a space for sharing personal stories, experiences, and inspiration. It's not medical or professional health advice. By listening, you accept full responsibility for how you choose to take or apply any of the information shared. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. You are a sovereign being. Always follow your heart and choose what feels best and true for you.